Hey, good evening, everyone. John here with the Missouri Liberty Report. So, a couple things right off the bat. September 8th, I will not be doing a show. Depending on the location and how good my signal is, I am going to attempt to live stream Senator Eigel's campaign kickoff event on my YouTube channel on Friday, September the 8th, but I will not be doing a show per se. Just wanted to get that out there. Also, don't forget, folks, if you're watching this on the YouTube side, excuse me, and you'd rather, if you're thinking about making the swap to Rumble, please be aware that I am also on Rumble, so you can find me there. With that being said, let me start the recording, and then we will resume the Freedom Talk.
In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All right, folks, and we're back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks so much for joining me. For those who watch on YouTube or on Rumble, if you listen on the radio or by podcasting app, I appreciate each and every single one of you and your support and your listenership/viewership. All right, folks, with that being said, again, I want to announce to the listeners out there in radio and podcast land, September 8th, I will not be doing a show, but if you go to YouTube that evening, if I have good enough signal, I will attempt to live stream Senator Eigel's official, campaign kickoff for governor of Missouri. So be on the lookout for that. I will do my best. I am also going to talk to Sherry and see if I can't get 5 minutes with him at some point that evening for a short interview and try to get some video footage of that as well. Well, folks, if you don't know who my two guests are that are joining me tonight, if you don't know who they are, then shame on you, because you should know who they are. Their names are Catherine Dreher and Kirby Lane, and they do a podcast called Rogue Politics, and they follow the money. Now, Catherine's been on my show, I think, like at least 4 times, but this is Kirby's first time being on the show with me. They do an excellent job of following the money here in Missouri politics, and so if you haven't given them a listen, then what are you waiting for? Go out. They have a YouTube channel, Rogue Politics. You can also find Rogue Politics on Spotify, iHeart Radio, Apple, and several other podcast apps. So with that being said, Catherine and Kirby, good evening to the both of you.
Good evening, John.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I have to say right off the bat, because now you guys are going to have a spot on the Brian Nieves show on Thursdays from 4 to 6. Is that right?
Yeah, we're both co-hosting with him, but the first Thursday of every month, it will just be Kirby and me.
It'll be the Rogue Politics.
It will be the Rogue. That's right.
And actually, this is our big announcement.
Yes. Yes. So Brian is very brave, and I feel good that he trusts us enough to do that.
I got to tell you guys, as somebody that's been doing this for a while, this blows me away, because you guys have only been doing a podcast for a few months?
Yeah.
Right? April.
And you're blowing up, and I'm like, dang. I mean, but here's the thing. No, that doesn't make sense, because I have a face for radio. You guys have faces for YouTube. I only have a face for radio, and nobody's saying, hey, John. It's fine. I love it. I love the fact that you guys are blowing up the way that you are, and that tells everybody that what you're doing is important, and you found a niche that a lot of other people don't get into. You guys, because let's face it, a lot of people don't like staring at numbers. You guys don't mind it. You guys don't mind digging in, and that's something we all need. But I'm just blown away by the success you've had so early on. It's really awesome to see.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. Thank
we're
you.
very happy with how we've been doing.
Go ahead, Kirby.
I'm just very happy with how we've been doing. I didn't expect to get very many people to listen to us this early. I wasn't sure anybody would care, quite frankly.
Right.
But it was something that we found very fascinating and spent a lot of time doing. And it started out as, I think, me saying I wanted to do a blog about it. You're like, let's do a podcast.
Yeah. Well, I think we just kept having more and more information, and we still do. And it just reached a point like we need to just start getting this out there. But yeah, I mean, we owe you a lot, definitely, John, for getting us started, for letting us use your Spreaker channel, and just spreading the word. So you've definitely been a huge part in just kind of our taking off so quickly. So we want to thank you. And also, Pat Holland has helped us a lot in spreading the word in what we do. So we just, we want to thank everybody who is spreading the word, letting them know we're out there.
Helping us out, giving us space and advice.
Yes. We're still learning. Yeah.
Well,
we are not techies.
And you know what, though, that it's, like I said, it's great to see. And because Catherine and I knew you, and Kirby, I think I met you once at the Capitol.
Yeah.
And if, I know Catherine's admitted to this many times, and if Kirby's along for the ride, I know Kirby's in it for the long haul too, as Catherine says, when I put my mind to something, I have a mission, I'm going to do it. And I thought, well, if anybody deserves a space on Spreaker, because I have enough storage room, you guys were definitely it, because again, you're doing something unusual. I don't mind numbers, but a lot of people, you start talking math and numbers, you just see their eyes glaze over. And,
right.
But it's been phenomenal. But I want to get into a topic that I listened to you guys talk about on your last show, which is the proposed landfill and Senator Bratton's fight against that. Give us a little bit of history on this. Give us the information, because it doesn't matter where we live in the state. This is very important.
It is.
Yeah.
And Catherine, I'm going to let you take this one.
Oh,
because you did the most research on this one as far as the background on it.
Right, which is all in the back of my car right now, so I'll see what I can remember. No. I mean, that is true, but so, yeah, this actually, the whole thing started, the earliest we know of was last summer. It could have been going on before then. So it's, and you can help me out with some of the names, Kirby, that's where I forget. Casey Waste Management.
Casey
correct?
Recycle and Waste.
Casey Recycle and Waste. It's owned by Jennifer and Aiden Monheiser, the Monheisers. So they were kind of doing these backroom talks, behind the scenes, and so they had found an area. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think how many acres. Almost 300?
270, I think.
270 acres. See, Kirby's the one with the numbers. She remembers the numbers. So about 270 acres of land. However, and this had to have been strategic. Strategically, the land was set up in such a way that, oh gosh. Okay, you can help me, Kirby.
So it was they set it up to where it was like a half mile.
Yes.
Just outside of a half mile outside of all
these different
municipalities.
Yeah, so it bordered Raymore, Lee Summit. I can't think of all. There was like 4 or 5 different municipalities, but because of state law, because it was further than half a mile, I believe, or half a mile. Anyway, these municipalities didn't have a say in this landfill because of the way state law was set up. So what Senator Bratton's bill was going to do was it would make it so that it was a 1 mile radius. So if it was a 1 mile radius, then the municipalities could have a say. Am I getting this right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all in the back of my car. I'm trying to get it off the top of my head.
You're getting it right. And Senator Bratton's bill did nothing. I think it got assigned to committee and never got a hearing.
It never got a hearing. So then what happened with it? So he found out about this. The community went to him, and I talked to a gal that's with an organization called killthefill.org. And we were talking, and she's like, I had never been involved in politics before. She lives in Raymore. But she's like, I found out about this, and this landfill, it's like it's not an issue with the landfill. Like, it being in a first world country, we need to have waste management. But the problem was where the Monheisers want to put this landfill is it would sit across the street from elementary schools, residential homes, like $1 million homes. And the property values in Raymore, according to her, have already dropped 40% because of this proposed landfill. So where they're wanting to put it, and it would be the largest landfill in the state, is they're wanting to put it next to homes and next to schools. So that's the problem with it. So they did all they could think to do, went to Senator Bratton. Senator Bratton created, he had his Senate bill, but there was also House Bill 1, I can't think of what it's called now.
Is it 909?
Yes, 909, yes. And that one was carried by, you will remember this.
I do not remember.
Anyway, but yeah, so Bratton also sponsored the House Bill one. So the Senate bill didn't get anywhere. It was killed, or it passed out of which committee, Kirby?
I'm looking here. So it was carried by Mike Hafner.
Yes,
in
the House.
It went through the House, and it passed through the House, and it got sent to the Senate.
Yes.
And it went into the Senate Local Government and Elections Committee, where it passed with bipartisan support, with the exception of one absent and one no vote. And that no vote was Mary Elizabeth Coleman.
Yes. So Senator Coleman. So it was the House version that ended up coming to the Senate floor, and I don't remember all the ins and outs on how that happened. So what happened was when it was supposed to come up for a vote, Senator Coleman, Senator Curtis Trent, and Senator Razor filibustered. They would not allow it to come to a vote. Which
Mary Elizabeth Coleman is on our side of the state.
Exactly.
And Trent is Southern.
Yep.
So neither one of them could have mattered to them.
Yeah. Why did they care about whether or not, and again, all Senator Bratton's asking for is half a mile here, right? He's wanting to extend it from half a mile to a mile so that these municipalities can have a say in whether or not this landfill comes into their, next to their homes or not. So it filibustered to the point where Senator Bratton had to lay it over. So the next day, so by this point we're at May 4th. So we're coming near the end of session. So on May 4th, Senator Bratton brought it up again, and he filibustered. And he stood on the Senate floor fighting for his constituents. And the only other two senators that stood alongside with him were Senator Eigel and Senator Carter. So what we did is we're like, okay, let's dig into the money. What happened? Why would Senator Coleman and Senator Trent filibuster this? Well, it turned out the Monheisers paid 19 lobbyists.
Big name lobbyists.
To come in and lobby against the landfill or lobby in favor of the landfill against Senator Bratton's bill on behalf of the Monheisers. And then, Kirby, when we get to the money, I'll toss it over to you when we get to Senator Coleman and all of her money. So they
don't have any of that paperwork.
We don't have it in front of
that one too.
So they got a hold of all these state senators. And so then when it came back on the floor, if you have a chance, and we played some of it in our podcast, some of Senator Bratton's filibuster. If you have a chance, go back to the May 4th, the archives, May 4th, the morning, and just listen to him. And even though this is like, well, who cares? This is Kansas City. It speaks volumes about the degradation of our state government and how our state government actually operates.
Correct, because we're supposed to be we're supposed to be a representative republic. So we're supposed to be represented by our senators and by our state reps. But instead, they're representing only their lobbyists and their special interest groups and the people who've paid them big money.
Yeah.
For the most part, not entirely. But for the most part, they're representing not us.
Yeah, and so that's what was made, well, maybe not for everybody, but that's what we saw, why this is such an important issue. I mean, for one thing, nobody should have a landfill next to their elementary schools or their homes.
And
but
nobody should not have a say.
Exactly. And for Senator Bratton to have to stand on the floor, and that's what he kept pointing out, it's like, y'all are just giving me the middle finger. You know, you're just leaving me out to dry, my own colleagues. And when I talked to, like, Senator Brian Nieves and, you know, Senator Lemke, they're like, that's not how it was when we were senators. If you had a senator come in and they're fighting for something, you know, for their district, and it's something that isn't against the Constitution, then you stand alongside them and you help them and you help their constituents and their community. And so to see that that's not what's happening, and instead it's the lobbyists that are calling the shots, it's disgusting.
It is disgusting.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll let Kirby talk about
you would hope
Senator Coleman.
You would hope that our senators over here, or your senator where you're at, would step up for us if we were in this situation, or if you were in this situation, or if anyone else in the state were in this situation, because that is what they're there to do. You've elected them to represent you, and it doesn't matter how they get there. When it's an issue that's that important to their constituents, that's their actual job. And so, you know, it would have been better for me if these senators would have stood up and supported Bratton and gotten something done, and then they could have moved on with session. All they had to do was vote on it. That was all they had to do was vote. Right, and they didn't. So it never even came to a vote. And that's what, when I talked to the gal that's with Kill the Phil, she's like, we just wanted a vote. We just wanted to have an opportunity for the senators to vote on this. And so now they're having to raise money. They finally raised enough money to hire a lobbyist, because this is now where the fight is. It's not on the Senate floor. It's lobbyists against lobbyists. So they've now had to raise money so that they can hire a lobbyist to stop this landfill from going in. And do you want to tell what it ended up? It ended up going through appropriations. Because the bill it never was taken to a vote. So instead, Bratton put it in as an appropriations bill to delay it. Yeah. So what he was doing was, he ended up throwing into an appropriations. I think it was HB 19. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was HB 19. He got it thrown into an appropriations bill that they would just do a 1-year safety study. So it was like a land and safety whatever study. And it was only $100,000. Yeah, it was only to buy time. It was $100,000 out of a $3 billion. I don't remember what it ended up being, but around $53 billion budget. He wanted $100,000 basically to delay this for 1 year. Right. And he got it through. It passed through everything. It went to the governor's desk, and that was one of the governor's line item vetoes. Yep. $100,000. $100,000. Yeah. We got a $28.6 billion appropriation for a park above the interstate in Kansas City. We can get $100,000 for a safety study. Right. So, and, you know, the reason why they didn't want to send it to a vote, in my opinion, is because it would have passed, I think, pretty easily. Oh, yeah. When you look at the vote in the House. Bipartisan. Yeah. Right. The House floor vote was 139 to 16. Mm-hmm. So it would have, I think it would have done well, and I think they knew that. Right. So we've been trying to find the money because we know there's money. Yeah. But, you know, these people are smart with hiding their money, so we'll never know for sure where it came from, but we can make some assumptions, which I think we'll probably get into on our next show on Sunday a little bit. Yeah. So they were in and out of definitely Coleman and Trent's office and a number of other state senators' offices. And, you know, there were one, and I, you know, the saying, you know, to be silent in the face of evil is evil itself, or, you know, to not take action is to take action. And all of the states, all the rest of the state senators, with the exception of Senator Eigel and Senator Carter, all the ones that just remain silent, I believe, are just as guilty of letting this happen, because they could have stood up and helped the filibuster or called it to a vote. Right. And they didn't. Right. And I had actually messaged our state senator out here, Senator Fitzwater, and asked him during it if he was supporting Bratton. And he said, and I'm quoting here, "I do support his underlying bill. I don't support wasting a whole day of session with only 7 days left."
Yeah.
So what that tells me is that if we had something like this out here happening, we would have no support and no one to stand up for us.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So who? Listen, it speaks volumes when money overrides common sense. Because I guarantee you, any of those people that refuse to say anything, if somebody wanted to put a landfill around the school that their kids went to or near their house, they would have a complete and utter come apart. How dare you?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? But when it's not their area and there's money being doled out or whatever, maybe some favoritism or a favor of some kind, oh, by all means, put that stinking, and I think you guys brought this up on your show, but, in St. Louis, they have a fire constantly smoldering that is radioactive.
Right.
And they're just like, I don't know what we're going to do. And I'm like, I know what I'd be doing, getting the hell out of the way from St. Louis, or at least that area. Yeah.
Yeah, landfills are known for catching on fire. But one of the threads, and we're going to dig into it a little bit more, BNSF Railway. Did I say it wrong? BNSF?
That's right, BNSF.
Okay. Railway has been pouring a lot of money into some of these same state senators, like Senator Coleman and Senator Trent. And from what I understand, that if this landfill goes in, again, it would be the largest in the state, so it would be taking trash from across the state, which would require an additional portion of a rail system to go in Kansas City. So we find that interesting.
I remember just ever so slightly, or at least maybe I'm hallucinating. I'm old now, so who knows? But I could have swore that a lot of people bragged up. Oh my God, how am I drawing a blank? Coleman, Mary Elizabeth Coleman is some really good conservative senator. I could have swore she's being talked up like that, and once she got in her position, she's completely changed.
Well, and she puts forth some bills that look really good on paper, and they never go anywhere. She had one, a vaccine one, not this past most recent session, but the session before that was good, went nowhere. And then she had the grocery tax,
eliminating the grocery sales tax.
Oh, this session, which also went nowhere. And I sort of wonder if that's not on purpose, knowing full well they're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
But to make herself look good. The pat on the back.
Yeah. And one of the other, just real quick, I'm remembering some of the money things. It's weird because they don't seem like they would be connected, but they are. Because the gal I was talking with, one of the things she was saying was like, for some reason, somehow school choice was somehow involved with the lobbyists, and I don't understand how that comes into play. And so when we were looking through like Trent and Mary and Coleman's their PACs, their NBC reports, they received a lot of money from
Quality School.
Yes, Quality School.
And that was interesting because we don't know where their money is coming from. So we know where they're donating to. We see that. Like they're donating to Missouri Federation for Children. They're donating to a lot of PACs for candidates, senators and stuff. But we don't know where it's coming from because it's set up as like a 501c3 or 501c4 or something like that. So we can't see money going into it, and we don't know truly who's funding it. Yeah. It's kind of dark, sketchy money there, in my opinion.
It is. But then we can make the assumption. We don't know for sure, but we can make the assumption that things like that are being held over their heads. Like, okay, you're going to lose money. You're going to lose the money from like Quality Schools, or you know what I mean? Like these lobbyists.
There were a couple of the lobbyists that also lobby for school choice. There were at least two that lobby for school choice as well. Yeah. So you're right. They could be hiding money within other things entirely that have nothing to do with it.
Right. It becomes really icky when you start digging into this stuff.
It really does. And these are the things that people need to know about before they place a vote for any candidate at all.
Well, yeah, because, again, like I said, we thought Mary Elizabeth Coleman was one of those, like, oh, somebody that we can work with. And it's like, sheep or a wolf in sheep's clothing. And you're like, well, what, how do we go from that to this year? She acts like a completely different person. And it's like, how? Yeah. But anyway, so, okay.
Well, she just got back from Israel as well. And I have some questions about who funded the trip and why.
Some special interest group funded that, of course,
Right.
Right. Yeah. And we found like her, the treasurer for her PAC is a former federal lobbyist. So we have some suspicions about Senator Coleman's political ambitions.
Yeah, that's.
But it just doesn't look good when your treasurer is a lobbyist, in my opinion, when you're trying to look like you're coming from the right side. And she shuts down her comments on everything.
He's a current lobbyist, isn't he?
I don't know.
I'll have to look him up again.
I don't know. I know he's real condescending on Twitter, though.
Right. But he's a federal. Yeah, federal lobbyist. It's interesting.
Man, what could be worse than a condescending lobbyist? Not much worse than a condescending lobbyist, let me tell you.
It's an oxymoron, I think.
They're already, really slimy creatures anyway, and then they come out all snooty, and you're like, really, dude? Now you're adding that? You're adding your personality in here? This is awful. So, with that being said, what are some other interesting things that you've dug up as far as looking into this money? And you've been following PAC money, you've been following the contributions from all these different people and different organizations. What are some of the most interesting things that you've come across so far in the few months that you've been doing your podcast here?
I think for me, it's how deep Rex Dingfield's money goes. We affectionately call him Sexy Rexy, and we are always like, oh, look, it's another Sexy Rexy donation.
Yeah, he's bought a lot of state reps and state senators. I mean, he's been doing that for years, but yeah. Go ahead, Kirby.
Yeah, that's mine, and the number of donations from the healthcare industry, and what a grip the healthcare industry has on our state legislature.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about with this, the election variant of COVID that's now coming up. We're going to start looking more into, who is taking a lot of money from pharmaceutical industries and, the medical field, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So you just opened Pandora's box because, and listen, I'm going to tell you, just like I've told Patrick and some of the other folks I've had on my show, I don't care. You say what you feel, what you think about the subject that you just brought up. If YouTube gets mad at me, they get mad at me. I don't care.
Right.
But we've seen I've heard about the college in Atlanta that is already instituting mask mandates, social distancing, quarantining, all this stuff. We see it coming back again. What are your thoughts on this whole thing? Because Kirby, I've seen what you've said. You simply said, I will not comply with anything.
I will not comply with anything, and I stand by my statement that now is the time to speak up, not when they're already back. It is now. The time to go to your employer, the time to go to your church, the time to go to your bosses, to your school board, anywhere you can go, and you tell them now it's not happening, but you have to be ready to follow through with it. Because if they know enough people are ready to follow through, they may not make the choice, but once the choice is made, they will dig their heels in. We learned it last time, and we have to do better this time.
Amen.
Well, all right. I didn't warn it. I didn't warn anybody before. Like after our interview, after our conversation is over, I have a whole lengthy monologue. Well, I shouldn't say I have it all planned out, but I know certain subjects that I'm going to talk about real hard and heavy when this conversation's over with, because there's two things brewing on my mind, and it's like I don't give two craps about what YouTube thinks about me and my monologue after this is all over with. I don't care, because when I heard this story and I heard these things, and I thought, now, I did say when this was happening last time that just like the Patriot Act, right? It's a tool for the government to use whenever they want, because the Patriot Act keeps getting re-upped. They keep adding things to it. These mandates and lockdowns and shutdowns and everything else is a tool because it worked last time. It's going to work again. And now it looks like, now, here's the thing, folks. Is this something to just get us distracted from other things, so they're amping everybody up to think that they're going to do it and they actually don't do it? Who knows? But say what you will about Donald Trump, because personally I'm getting tired of hearing about it. But on the other hand, what the funny games are playing with him. They keep indicting him and indicting him and indicting him, and our government is using its power against somebody another candidate,
right?
And like
we're
Trump,
a banana republic. That's what we are.
We are.
We are.
Well, and this is the thing. No, you're fine. You're fine. The thing that gets to me is, it's like, okay, like Trump or hate Trump or have a slight dislike, however you feel, people have to understand that if they can do that to him, it's coming for you next. And not because he's standing in the way of us. It's just that's the way it is. If they can do it to a political opponent, what will stop them from doing it to us? And the other thing that people seem to have a hard time coming to grips with, because we're so divided as far as political lines for the most part, is if the one party does it to the other party, what makes you think that when the other party gets power, they won't do the same thing? People cannot
because Republicans are spineless.
Yep.
But because Republicans are spineless. I mean, there are good ones who aren't, but the good majority of them aren't going to do anything, and it's not because they can't; it's because they won't.
But even on a state level, this could become part of certain state politics. Hell, it maybe already has, but it could be a part. But the precedent's been set. And the other thing that gets me is, if people are like, well, if Trump gets elected, then, he's really? He didn't do it the first time. But, but B, the people, I'm going to repeat all this later. And I'm having one of those days. But
that's okay.
The thing is people want vengeance. A lot of people want vengeance against certain people in government. And they think, well, if this guy gets in, he's going to enact our vengeance on this other group of people. And it's like, okay, but then he sets a precedent. So when the other party comes in, they're going to do it, and it's going to be way worse than what you ever imagined. And people just don't think that far out. It's, we're going to
Well, that's exactly what happened with Obama and his pen and his phone. He came in with his pen and his phone and started executive ordering, and then it just continued and continued, and now we live pretty much under the rule of executive order.
Yeah. And it's like, come on, folks, it's not that hard. But because the country is so polarized and one side hates the other so much, when you let your emotions override you so much, a lot people that let their emotions take over, logic and critical thinking are not there. There's a void filled by rage and hate and anger, And all they want to do is they want that to be, pulled in by somebody else and then spewed in the face of their enemies, not thinking that, hey, this is something that could turn around and bite me in the butt really hard in the future, because the emotion is so strong, there's no thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to see it, but I really think we're probably heading down the path of a civil war. I'll just say it. I
do too, and I think the only thing that would prevent it is national divorce. I really do think a national divorce. Not secession, right? But the true, like Tom Woods' national divorce. Like, I think that it's the only way to go, because when you look at this, we can't live like this forever. And Catherine, you're right. Civil war or bust. I don't know.
Right.
Because I don't want their laws pushed onto me, and they don't want ours pushed onto them, which, I mean, I don't really know what we push onto them, because we're like, just leave me alone and do it. But it is what it is. They want us matched up for the rest of eternity, and
they want compliance.
I'm not going to stand by and do it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. We've talked, like, at least for Missouri, can we give, like Kirby says, can we give Kansas City over to Kansas and give St. Louis over to Illinois?
Listen, it would be a better place in Missouri.
It would.
To do that. And it would also be a better place if we could checkmark box what we want for our taxes too.
That's right. If you're going to take it from me, let me have a say.
Right.
Well, and Kirby, I'm glad you said that, because I've had Daniel Miller on with me once on my old show, once on my new show. And anytime I bring him on, I get people like, oh, well, then they won't let it happen. The feds won't allow us to leave. It's like, well, what happens if, like I've stated before, you get Missouri and Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas and like Mississippi and maybe Iowa, and we all say, and we all say together, hey, by the way, guys, really tired of dealing with your stuff, so peace out, Girl Scouts. And we find what then? If 6 states decide to leave at the same time, what?
Mm-hmm.
And the feds, the government in and of itself would have to tread very carefully how they portray, and so would the media. They'd have to be very careful how they portrayed this, because there's going to be lots of splaining to do if 6 states say, yeah, we're done, goodbye, sayonara, peace out. I mean, how is,
Yeah. I was going to just say, I mean, really, the place we need to start, and this is, I'll tell you right now, I'm helping with Bill Eigle's campaign, so I support Bill Eigle for governor. But one of the things that I do appreciate about him, and that I totally agree with, is we need to stop suckling off the federal teeth. Okay, that's a good place to start right there, because the states created the federal government. So many people forget that we created them. They didn't create us. We created them, and we need to stop being so freaking dependent on them monetarily. That would be a perfect place to begin.
Well, we need to hack our budget big time, because until we hack our budget, we can't not rely on them, because right now we are reliant upon them. It is what it is. But there's so much from that budget that can be cut.
Yes. If you haven't seen our episode on YouTube where we go through the budget, you need to watch it, because Kirby has printed the entire budget, and it's 2 binders full, and we hold it up for everybody to see. So if you haven't watched that episode where we go through the budget, you should watch it.
Well, and then I feel like we have to tread lightly too, because we will get so much backlash if we say everything we feel that can be cut, because there are entire appropriation budgets that can be cut. There are entire departments that can be cut. Our social services budget is absolute insanity. It is just absolute insanity. And
the Department of Economic
Development, I rail on them all the time. I hate that department.
That can go away.
It can just go away. But you've got DESE has got a ton of budget. The Department of Secondary Education budget is huge. You've got useless budgets all over. it has to be sliced. And I think, and I don't know, I've been through parts of it. I haven't been through the entire thing because my eyes started spinning, but I've been through almost all of it. And, you could it's probably be cut in half with stupid stuff. We don't need to spend $50 million on a soccer game.
No, it's going to destroy Kansas City anyway. Like, oh, it'll bring in, tourists and money. I'm like, no, they're going to destroy your city is what they're going to do. It happens, to any city that has ever hosted an international event. They're ruined afterward.
Well,
they have to clean up the mess.
And I don't hate youth sports at all.
Oh my gosh!
We don't use our taxpayer money to build youth sports stadiums in random cities, and we just don't need to subsidize so many businesses, and we don't need to subsidize all these colleges. And we don't. I mean, there's just so much in there that's just fluff. And if we cut it all out. And the reason why they're able to do that is because of the federal money that's coming in.
Yep. Because we have Republicans that don't stand up and say no. No. I mean, because the platform is right. Lower taxes, right, is supposed to be saving us money, less spending, lower taxes. But they don't do that. And they'll one of the complaints we kept, or not necessarily a complaint, but one of the excuses we heard a lot from our state senator, Fitzwater, was, well, the only thing that we're constitutionally required to do is pass a budget. And we're like, yeah, you can vote no. You can vote no on this appropriation. That's a vote you could make.
Right. So, all right, here's a question for you guys. Have you looked at or thought about looking at what federal dollars are coming in for exactly what reason? Like, so the Fed's like, here's so many, hundreds of millions of dollars towards this. Is that something that you guys have looked at or thought about doing? I mean, I know that's a lot of work. I get it.
I was going to say, I'm not even sure where to start. I would be interested in looking at that.
Yeah, I'd be interested as well. But that was.
I don't even know where to start. But yes, I would be interested.
I mean, there's things like we haven't looked at like the federal money that's coming in for appropriations, but we've done a little bit of digging into, they're called Hawthorne Foundation, and their investors and where their investors' money comes from, and a lot of them are tied with the World Economic Forum. And so like Hawthorne Foundation paid for Governor Parson and a group of other legislators, such as Plucker the Blocker, to go overseas, and they brought back a lot of globalist businesses. So we've kind of followed like some of that money that's kind of outside the scope of federal funding into our state budget, though. But sometimes, just trying to see all the connections that our state has with the World Economic Forum, because they're in our house. They're in Jefferson City more than I think people realize. I went off topic there, but that's kind of as far as we've gone with looking at any kind of federal money, but it would be interesting to see.
Well, and all over the budget, it says for the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes, it's ongoing. Yes, thank you, Kirby.
So probably anything that says that is federal money.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about it today. I was like, I wonder if they've ever done that, because that would be a deep dive into. That one would probably make it like have a few extra glasses of wine. Am I right, Catherine? If you had to dig through.
Yeah. Yeah, your eyes get blurry already. Just looking at some of it. That would be interesting, because we know it's coming in for. Dusty takes a lot of federal money, and that's how we ended up with Common Core, right? They took money for No Child Left Behind, and that came with Common Core. So Missouri ended up with Common Core, and everybody's complaining, why do we have Common Core? Why do we have Common Core? Well, you idiots, we took the federal money, and it always comes with strings. No matter how much you take, I think was it Senator Lemke, I think, when we were on the show the other day, anyway, was talking about, you might take 20% federal funds, but it's going to come with, 100% strings attached.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening because, as far as freedom goes, we enjoy much more than a lot of other states do. But
Yeah.
if we keep going and we keep taking the federal money and we keep doing all these things, we're going to be like a lot of other states that don't have much. And,
Right.
Again, a lot of these supposed conservatives don't want to talk about that and don't want you knowing about that and thinking about that. And like I said, sometimes I think about running for state rep knowing that I wouldn't win. I mean, there's a very slim margin that I would win, but God, would I love to get up in front of all the people at the meet and greets and just start laying out facts just to see if they go back to the current rep and go, hey, yeah, what is the deal with that? Why is this going on? And just causing a stir. If that's the only thing I do is make his life a living hell a little bit and be a headache.
Well, I think about, look at Ron Paul. For me, he's the prime example when he ran for president. Now he ran to win, knowing that he probably wasn't going to win, but he often talked about what was more important to him than even winning the presidency was the fact that he had a platform for spreading the message of liberty. And back then, when he was being laughed at in 2012 about wanting to eliminate the CIA and the FBI and Medicaid, all of our alphabet agencies, he was laughed at then, but he set the stage, and we're talking about those things seriously now. Now people are like, oh, yeah, we need to get rid of the FBI. They're terrible. So, I think even if you run just to have a platform, like you're saying, to spread the message of liberty and to put some of these ideas in people's heads, it's worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you what frustrates me too is, being on the Twitters or the X's or whatever they are, and seeing people rail on some of our actual conservative senators and talk about how, we've got a Republican supermajority and you guys do nothing and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I think they don't realize that there are some that are standing up. And what's really frustrating, they're probably the same ones that are going to go out and vote for Ashcroft or Kehoe because they've seen their name before and somebody told them that they were good. Whereas if you actually followed and paid attention instead of just yelling at people on Twitter, you would see that there are some that are trying to do the conservative thing, but they are not the majority of the Republicans.
No. Or maybe 8 or 9.
Yeah, 8 or 9 on a good day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the Senate, anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Senate. I try to follow the House, but I just don't follow it as closely.
Yeah.
Well, and that you are right, Kirby. I've seen Bratton. I've seen Mike. Well, no, Eigel. I'm trying to remember who else I follow on there.
Senator Hoskins.
Yeah,
Hoskins,
and
Carter.
Hoskins gets a whole heap of crap over gaming, but when it came and he does receive some gaming money.
He gets a lot of gaming money. Yeah.
But at the end of session, when it was let's vote gaming or let's vote personal property tax reform, he chose personal property tax, and that's something that you have to look at too. At the end of the day, how do they vote?
Yeah. It's just. Well, we all know this. I get on there to see some of the posts because I find some really interesting stuff, but I fully expect the next name to be Trollsville or something because there's so many trolls on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
and these people don't have any real thoughts of their own. Like I follow one Piper for Missouri. I guess she ran.
She is awful.
She's horrible.
Oh my God. Not leave my feed. I don't follow.
I had to block her, and I don't like to block people, but she was just so obnoxious. So I'm like, you have to go now. But also, when they start, if you can't stick to using, I'm not going to deal with having vulgarity on my posts just for the sake of vulgarity. So I was like, all right, you're gone.
Yeah, it's just she cracks me up because she says things, and then I responded to something that she posted. She's like, "Oh, you're one of those libertarians, aren't you?" And I know she said, and I'm like, "Well, I didn't even respond because then I'd have to go out and apologize to the trees for wasting all the oxygen trying to talk to her. So I'm like, there's no freaking point. She's off in another dimension, and clearly
you are not wrong.
I know.
I don't know. And then, some of the podcasts I listen to, like people like Nina Turner. Now, I do follow Robert Reich III on Twitter. If you want some amusement on, and some entertainment from somebody who says he's an economist, and then he types things, and it's like, you're not a real economist. You're like some of the engineers I work with. You might have a degree, but that's a piece of paper that you ought to use to wipe your hind end with, because clearly
right.
you went to a really poor school or something, because your education sucked. But, I like following him for entertainment purposes. And then Nina Turner, I've got to look her up and follow her, because her and Robert Reich are in the same camp that, all this stuff should be free and everything, housing is a right and healthcare is a right. And, they go all out. So, yeah, it's kind of funny to listen to or to look at what they type out, because then you can try to do a different kind of math. If you see if you can figure out how many brain cells they have left in their head by the amount of characters
I was wondering
they type out.
if they also thought 70% taxes were a right, because that's where that was headed.
Oh,
Here's your $300 for your food for the month. Everything else goes to the government because everything's a right.
Mm-hmm. They don't understand what rights are.
Well, they get this weird idea that your rights come from government, and that's their initial first big error in thinking, and then it all goes downhill after that, because if you follow that line of thought, everything else out of your mouth is going to sound real stupid.
Right.
I'll tell you, it's interesting that you say that, because I've been saying for about a year now that I think that this whole push towards I hate to get you kicked off of YouTube, but the girls and boys issues and things of that nature, and everything that we're seeing with the satanic concerts and musicians and all of that, I think that is all a push to get us away from religion. And I think the bottom line for it is that if they can get us far enough away from the Word of God, that they can say that our Constitution is based on nothing, because our Constitution is based on the premise that our rights come from God and not government. Right. And if they can get us so far away from that Bible that they can be like, this is meaningless, I think that's what they're trying to do.
I think true. I think too, but I think you're hitting that, and I think that they would rather us worship them. And that's it. They want us to grovel at their feet, and they hand us everything like some benevolent God, and nothing could be farther from the truth. But I truly believe some people already act that way. They act like government is their religion, that they, and listen, this is definitely going to get me in trouble with YouTube. And again, I don't care, but like Jan 6th, somebody made a joke that those people like Pelosi and AOC and they were mad because people defiled their church.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, you know what? Dude's got a point. He's dead on. It wasn't that they came into the Capitol. It's because they defiled their church. They want people to come in there and grovel and worship at their feet, not because they care about their country. No, they just want you to come in there and act like nope. Got to keep it radio friendly.
They've forgotten that is the people's house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, I was asked to, I spoke at a Boy Scouts, which they probably just call Scouts now. I don't even know. But it was when it was still Boy Scouts, about government and local government, and anyway, just government in general. And so this Boy Scouts was held at a church, and so they would have prayer beforehand, and all the leaders were Christians. And the very first question I asked all these young men was, where do your rights come from? And I got the government. That was a common answer. The Constitution. No. Some thought they were really smart here. Oh, the Bill of Rights. No, not a single one of them And I knew all of, most of them grew up in, Christian homes, went to church, Christian families. Not a single one of them thought about God. I'm like, no, your rights come from your creator. You're born with them. That, they're inalienable. That means they cannot be separated from you. They're inherent. That means you came into this world with these rights. And they're just like, what? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there had to have been like 30 Boy Scouts, and not a single one of them thought, that their rights came from God. It was all government or Bill of Rights or Constitution. I was like, oh Lord, God, I'm glad they called me in.
So now there are 30 kids who know where their rights come from.
That's right.
Spoken at Boy Scouts meetings.
At least 30. But I'm thinking, oh my God. And so, some of them were homeschooled. Not, but most of them were in public school. But some are, I'm like, really? Really? You don't know this? But that's how most people are.
The good thing about all this, though, is that I have heard that there is a big push back towards the church, that there are a lot of people, and I'm seeing this in my own life, as we've gone back to church also, and our church is growing so fast. And I think that is common all over the country now, is that people are going back to where they came from, back to the Word of God, and back to church, and back to community, which is where we need to go.
All right, folks. Well, for those of you in KEYK land, thanks so much for joining me this week. Again, if you haven't checked out Rogue Politics, again, you can find them on YouTube, iHeart Radio, Spotify, Apple. You can find them in several places. There's no reason for you not to be listening to them and not hearing the information that they have to give you, because there are elections coming up, and they might cover somebody from your neck of the woods. And so listen in, and you can make a more educated choice on who you will be voting for. So, again, thanks to all of you in KEYK land. I appreciate you all. We'll see you right here next week on the Missouri Liberty Report. I don't have any guest planned. It's going to be a free-for-all Friday, I guess. I don't know. See y'all next week, folks. Take care. Have a great weekend. All right, continuing on. Well, and that's the thing. Like, since I've had Tom Martz on here a couple times now, here's what, because I was saying constitutional right all the time, and then when Patrick and Tom and I were invited to speak at Robert Smith's campaign event,
right?
Patrick and Tom were having a conversation, and I believe Patrick said something about constitutional right, and Tom said, stop saying that. It's natural right. Mm-hmm. It's a natural right. And then he said it to me enough times.
Tom helped me get over that. Yeah.
That I have.
But you do hear that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. You hear it in the media. You hear, and it's hard not to just be kind of ingrained in your brain. But now I finally got myself to say, no, it's a natural right. That's a natural right, not a constitutional right. But yeah, I was. And then, of course, Tom threatens to slap me in the head sometimes, so that really helps. Because Tom's bigger than me, so I know I wouldn't do well in any kind of hand-to-hand combat, so I'm going to listen to what Tom says, because he's bigger than me. I was trying to think of another episode that I listened to. Well, you've brought up some interesting things like, okay, here's something we haven't touched. You guys do a segment sometimes called You Might Be a Criminal If.
Yeah, we need to bring that back. Sometimes things get too heavy.
And the snowball fight one, that was great.
Winfield.
Passing gas, that was another classic. That was freaking hilarious.
While we've been on here, I've been looking through Owensville, and I can't find anything that we haven't already talked about. Yeah, I mean, it's against the law to create a noxious odor that would offend somebody in Owensville. So, yeah, you can't fart in public there either. At least if it smells, you can't.
Well, never mind. I'm going to leave that one alone. I'll leave that alone. But
are you take the fifth there?
Yeah, I'm pleading the fifth, Kirby, on that one. I was going to say, good thing my crap doesn't stink, but I'd be lying. So I guess I guess I've just been fortunate. Maybe everybody around me can't smell very well, and that's why I haven't been taken to jail yet. So that's good, or fined, or
Right.
whatever. Because
Yeah.
we live just outside the city limits, and it's been about 10, 11 years ago we moved into the city limits. And then now the neighbor north of us across the street, when her husband was alive, he was known. Now he didn't do it to us because he knew my wife, but he was known to do it to other neighbors at dark or after it got dark. He would go out with a ruler and measure your grass, and if it got above so many inches, he would call the city. And I told my wife, I said, "Well, I have a black German Shepherd. So if I know he's doing that, I'm just going to let her out the back door nice and quiet, and then he's going to get the bejesus scared out of him because he's not going to be able to hardly see the dog. He's just going to see teeth and a bark and a growl, and then he's going to be beating feet back across the street because I'm like, I am not about that type of crap.
No.
Well,
here it is in your ordinances. I'm looking at it now. Section 215.020. Weed, tie grass, or other vegetation can't be higher than 12 inches, John. It shall be deemed a public nuisance.
So I have to tell you this too. There was a house so diagonally across the street north of me. It was run down. It got condemned by the city apparently because the sewer was backing up in the basement. But I knew the guy that lived there, and what he told me, if he was being honest with me, he said, "Hey, I can't do nothing because the way the sewer is tied in underneath my basement." He goes, "The city actually caused this problem." But the neighbor that lives directly across the street from me, the guy that lived in the house that got condemned, was saying this guy would sit in a lawn chair looking across the street and then writing things down. And I said,
"Oh my gosh!"
And I said, "You know what I would do if I was you?" I said, "I would also get a lawn chair and I would get a notebook and look across the street at him and write stuff down." I said, "Turnabout's fair play." I said, "Clearly he can't come talk to you like an adult." Because I think he had been an alderman at one time. So he just, he's trying to use the city as his, club and beat somebody over the head with it. And I'm just like, there was a guy, I cannot remember his name. He was in Exeter, Missouri, and he used to do a show, and he strictly worked and did so much about codes and all these things like there's I can't remember what the name of the actual, but it's like the Brotherhood of Codes or something like that. All these towns opt in on these codes, and it gets ridiculous. Like where if an inspector drives by and your downspout has come out of your gutter, well, you're going to get you're going to get a citation. But
well,
he
they
was,
have these neighborhood preservation societies or whatnot.
Yes. So he was talking about how he got, he had his home valued, whatever. What do they call that? The word when somebody comes over.
Appraised.
Appraised. And so, but the city complained because he had a farm truck parked beside his house, and they're like, "You got to move that because," and he's like, "Well, why?" And he's like, they're like, "Well, because you're going to bring the value of the homes down." He's like, "I couldn't afford it." He goes, "But I guarantee you, if I would have had 2 appraisals done, one with the truck sitting beside the house, and taken the truck and moved it," he goes, "I guarantee you the appraisal wouldn't have changed." And he goes, "I so badly wanted to do it, and then walk in there, lay it on her desk, and say, 'Now, which one of these has the farm truck and which one doesn't?'"
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
My problem with all these ordinances, I have a lot of problems with them, but my biggest problem with them is that if you're not going to enforce, like, say, the snowball ordinance, then how do you decide that you're going to enforce this ordinance over here? How are we supposed to know with which ordinances we need to comply when you're not enforcing them equally? And you're not enforcing them equally because some of them are ridiculous and need to be removed. So just remove them.
Yeah, maybe the snowball one, for anyone who hasn't listened to that podcast, is in the city of Winfield. A snowball, you can't throw a snowball at a tree or a person on private or public property. Right. It's listed as a missile. Yeah. And so you can't essentially have a snowball fight in your backyard when it snows, or front yard, or if so, make sure nobody sees you. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, are they really going to enforce that? And if not, then it becomes arbitrary.
Right.
Why have any laws to begin with?
Well, right, because it's my opinion that, like, I mean, obviously there are laws that we need. You know, you don't want someone to just be able to steal from you, but like,
Sure.
how can you say that you are enforcing that penalty, but you're not enforcing the snowball penalty? How many boards have gone through where they have not gone through this, and how many people aldermen have they had where they can not remove a snowball fight?
Right.
When the reason is because no one's looked at it for all of eternity.
Well, there's that. Yes. Yeah.
I actually would like to know how that came to be. Like, what is the history of the snowball fight ordinance?
Yeah, we think it was probably maybe like a council person, somebody on the board of aldermen that got hit by one and was really upset. So decide, you know what, we need to make a law against that.
So when we're talking about these people that, you know, make up these rules or ordinances or whatever, I come to call them popsicles. When my daughter was in middle school, I once asked her, I said, do you have a group of people that are just, you know, like, where do you sit when you go to lunch? Do you sit around like the popular kids or whatever? She goes, or, you know, the people that create drama. She goes, no, I don't sit around the popsicles. I don't talk to them. And I was like,
awesome.
Popsicles? Why do you call them popsicles? And my wife looks at me and she goes, because they got a stick up their butt. And I was like, that's freaking perfect. That's
awesome.
perfect. It's like my daughter is so ingenious when she comes up with these new terms for people. Yeah, they got a stick up their butt.
That is awesome.
Like, oh, okay. Guys, can you talk about maybe some of the things you're looking at doing in upcoming shows? Some of the money or packs, or some of the things that you plan on looking to in upcoming podcasts?
So we plan on going through each individual state race and looking at all the packs.
We did the gubernatorial, but we'll probably come back around, to that from time to time.
We have not identified what pack Holly Rader is currently working out of.
She has a new pack.
That one we'll have to come back to that one. We have
we've got sorry, go ahead. I was going to say,
go ahead.
This is why we need to be in person. What? No, you go. We're like, where are they? Chippendale. No, you go. No, you please. Go ahead.
I was just going to say we have an interview Sunday coming up with Senator Bratton. We're going to interview him about the landfill and what's going on with that, and you'll just have to listen in to see where that goes.
Yeah, and we don't do any live because we're not that good. No.
So we can cut out stuff like this happened.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't edit that out. So we sound a lot smarter. No. I was going to say the lieutenant governor race, though, as far as we know, Plocker has not announced, but that's some very, very deep diving. I have what I call the Plocker files, and it's just growing. It's just growing and growing. So we may get into that, but yeah, the statewide races. And then we briefly mentioned about with the possibility of what I call the election variant of COVID on the horizon. We'll start looking into the pharmaceutical money. And then like we've touched on WEF stuff. We may circle around to that. I don't know. It's like
we let the budget hang in too. I really want to come back to
so much
because that one was big.
Yeah, there's just so much. And then as we dig more, it's like, oh, this is, and then we go on some other like trail. It's like it reminds me of my beagles. That's like, this smells good. Oh, now we're over here. Oh, this is good. And we'll never run out of material.
Well, and then we'll have session. We'll have session again.
Right.
And then there will be absolutely endless what we get to do.
Right.
Well,
so we will be doing, as you mentioned, Senator Bratton. Hopefully, we know we don't have this scheduled, but Senator Eigel has asked us a couple of times when can he be on our show. So we're getting set up to where we can do more interviews. So that should be fun.
Outstanding. Well, again, thanks so much for coming on with me, guys. You're
thank
doing
you.
great
Thanks for having
things, and I'm just blown away by how you've taken off. And again, it shows that you got into the right thing. A lot of people don't do it, and that's why it's so beneficial and it's so cool. And I have to say, besides the information, one of the things that I like about your podcast so much, and one of the things that I would love to do here, but it's just not really possible, is the fact that there are two of you and you can bounce stuff off each other. And I think that makes a show way more interesting when you have two hosts every week. Every time you guys do a podcast, there's two of you and you're feeding off each other. And I think it makes it more entertaining and it makes it more educational that way. So you've got a lot of things going on for you. And then now you get to, like I said, every Thursday on the Brian Nieves show, the first Thursday of every month. It's just going to be pretty much Rogue Politics during his show time, which is phenomenal. And so congratulations to both of you. Keep it up, keep blowing up, keep expanding. I'm excited to see where you guys go. I just find it awesome that I know both of you, and it makes it super cool because I see two people that I know doing awesome things, and that makes me feel good because you guys are doing the right stuff and you're fighting for the right things, and that makes me happy because we see a lot of people who venture into this and they can't get any momentum or feel like they're not getting anywhere, and you guys have just taken off like a shot. So kudos to you both, and keep up the freaking awesome work you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your support.
Yes, thank you so much for having us on, and thank you so much for your support in the beginning because we couldn't have done it without you.
Nope.
Hey, it was my pleasure. Again, when Catherine talked about doing this, I was like, holy crap, this is this is new territory. To me it was, because you listen to some podcasts and they're really entertaining, and sometimes you get Mr. Monotone, and the thought of sleep driving just doesn't sit well with me. So
Right.
I enjoy that I have an hour commute because I can digest one episode in that hour time travel to or from work. So it's fantastic. But yeah, I was just because none of us are wealthy, and it was my way because I have Sandwich First Britain, and they've given me so much help. And they've given me slots multiple times for 3 different shows. And
we need to shout out to Sam as well. He helped us.
And so seeing what they did for me and how it helped me, I figured the best thing I could do was just pass it on and pass it to the next person that's trying to do something good too. That, talking to you face to face or interviewing several times, Catherine, I got to know you well enough to this isn't some shady character who's sucking up to me. So anyway, ladies, it was great having you on with me. Again, so awesome to see what you're doing, and best of luck. And I look forward to future episodes of your show.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
do too. Thank you.
All right, have a great weekend, guys, and we'll talk.
You
Hopefully, talk to you real soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody, Catherine and Kirby. And again, if you haven't checked out Catherine and Kirby's show, what are you doing? You'll be blown away by the amount of information that they dig up. I mean, you will truly, because what they do is not an easy task. It's not easy at all. And they're just a joy to have on the show and talk to in general. They're just two great people doing great things for us right here in Missouri. So show them some love, please. Check out their podcast. Check out their YouTube channel, please. Let's make them blow up. Just let's get them, spread the word, get a lot of people watching them. Maybe we'll have a few more educated voters, or a lot of educated voters here across the state. All right, folks. So I'm gonna go off on a little diatribe here, okay? And I talked about it a little bit earlier, but there's some things that have been on my mind this week, and I just feel like I got to say them. I don't know how else to put it, but I feel like I have to say these things. Some of you will agree with me, some of you won't, and that's fine because it's just my opinion, and I'm not, I'm not some all-powerful podcaster out here. I'm just an average Joe with thoughts of my own, basically. So I guess to start off, and this is all, I'm going to have a point behind everything that I'm getting ready to say, just so bear with me. So Trump, okay, we hear about him all the time. We hear about him in the mainstream media. I hear an awful lot about him in the alternative media. And he seems to be the topic of the day all the time. Okay? Now, I'm not a Trump fan, so please don't take this as me going on a Trump apology tour because I'm not doing that. Okay? He did a lot of dumb things. When he, did the bump stock ban, dumb. And then his words were, confiscate now, due process later. Not completely unconstitutional. Completely going against the natural right of self-defense, right? That was wrong. He did a lot of other dumb things. He did some good things, but he did a lot of dumb things. But I've heard people, even in the alternative media, say Trump has divided this country. And they're laying it all at his feet. And I wonder if that's a little naive or short-sighted. To put it at his feet that he solely, because, that Trump has divided this country. Has he? Has he divided this country? Or has the media and political parties and all kinds of other driveling idiots out there been the ones dividing this country? Now, is Trump a polarizing figure? Absolutely he is. Does he say dumb things in social media? Absolutely he does. But I think that there are an awful lot of people in the alternative media that are acting like people on the left that just hate him so much. To me, they're saying some kind of things that aren't really that true. And I don't have any love for the guy. I don't trust him as far as I can pick him up and throw him. But, a lot of people love to say the left is just this, and they are. The media is just obnoxious, and they're so on and so forth. But some people in the alternative media are doing the exact same thing. And the thing is, they want to try to, they don't want Trump in, they don't want him running, blah, blah, blah. But they're doing the same thing the left is doing with some of their talk, with some of the language they use. They're inciting his followers, his cult members, because it seems like a lot of people who support Trump act like they're in a cult. They do. They don't listen. They don't think for themselves. But it's like, okay, yeah, I feel that a lot of these indictments are dumb. This is a political game. This is a person in a political party using the government as a tool against a political opponent. And that is not okay. I don't care who it is. I don't care if Trump was doing it to Biden. It's not okay. Okay? It's not cool. It's not kosher. I think it's a little short-sighted to say that everything is his fault. And it's honestly, a lot of times, it's not intellectually honest to say it's anybody's one person's fault, because the people that praise this whatever person and whatever political party who follow along blindly also have to share a lot of the blame, because they're not calling into question what's being done to them and the rest of the country. So I think just saying that, Trump's divided this country's been divided a long time. But between the media and political parties and everything else, and the people who donate or follow along blindly, they all have a stake in this divisiveness. They're playing the part. They're being played like harps on the string from hell, or strings on a harp from hell. So I just wanted to say that. Okay? Now, some people may not agree with me, and that's absolutely fine. But it's annoying when they want to just lay it at one person's feet. And again, yes, he's a polarizing figure. He's done and said a lot of dumb things. And I don't want him back in the White House. But to say, yep, he divided this country, he did this and he did that. Did he do all those things himself? Did he? And now I'm going to leave it at that. If I'm wrong on any of this, you can feel free to correct me. mlreport@protonmail.com. Email me. mlreport@protonmail.com. Email me. Tell me I'm wrong. Give me reasons why. I'm not going to just ignore you, okay? I'm just saying this stinking thinking, my take, this is stinking thinking. And there's some really great alternative media people out there who are just, I think they hate him. And they're saying things and I'm like, I don't really think you're thinking this out. I mean, Obama and some of his followers did the same thing. George Bush and the people that worshiped him did the same thing. But we haven't seen the treatment that we have of Trump, and it's because precedents have been set, and the hatred volume was turned up to 11, and there are plenty of people in both parties that want vengeance on the other group of people. And that's what's going on right now. The people in the Trump cult want vengeance against the left. So they want Trump to get in and exact their vengeance, right? And what's going to happen? The next guy that comes in that's a Democrat, he's going to turn the tables, and he's going to use the executive order or powers that whoever before him that set the precedent for this, it's going to happen again. And it's going to happen to them. And then they're going to be really upset because they didn't take the time to think out that politics in this country is on a pendulum. It swings back and forth from left to right. It doesn't just stay on the left. Sometimes it swings back to the right. And then it'll swing back to the left. And so you're like, hello. This has happened for decades. And people still can't figure this out. Now, part two of my monologue here. Because we're seeing, again, the college in Atlanta, Georgia that instituted mask mandates and lockdowns and shutdowns and all these other things. The COVID craziness seems to be coming back out again. Again, this might be a scare tactic. This might be something as part of a distraction from other things going on. Or it could be they're ramping it up again. My question to you as a citizen, to you as a business owner, maybe to you as a mayor or an alderman or a county commissioner or whatever, will you, or somebody in the health department, will you follow along? Will you play along and do this again? Will the people and the business owners just cower? Or will you stand up and go, hey, we're not doing that again? Will you, people who are in a position of power in a city or maybe county government or a health department, some unelected bureaucrat somewhere, will you state that you all must do these things or we'll shut your business down or we'll fine you, we'll call, we'll send the police out to get you? Will you be those people? Or will you say, yeah, we tried that before, ruined the livelihoods of a lot of people? And I would hope that the answer to that question is no. We will not be a part of that. Again, we will not make and bring suffering onto people who have done nothing wrong. They're just trying to go to work, go out to eat, run a business. Go outside and play. Go to visit a family member. They're just trying to live normal lives that you made abnormal, and we still haven't really got back to normal since then because you mentally damaged so many people. So my question is, will you comply? Will businesses comply? Will unelected bureaucrats overstep their limits again? Will county commissioners or people like Sam Page, the little dictator in St. Louis County, will he overstep his bounds again? I just about bet he would. But are you, the people in St. Louis, going to put up with that? Now, here's my thing, folks. I brought up these two things because, A, they really, really tick me off. These two subjects just make me want to smash my head into a wall, okay? But when we talk about the federal government and when we talk about COVID on a national level, I bring those two things up for one reason. It's because what are you doing on a local level? If you think that Trump is going to get elected, he's not going to. Sorry to bust your bubble, folks. He's not going to get elected. Okay? But let's say on the off chance that he would. Okay? Let's say Donald Trump gets elected and is president again. Do you honestly think he is going to drain the swamp? Do you think he's going to exact your vengeance on his political enemies? No. He's not. The crooks will keep getting away with what they've been doing. The criminals will continue to be criminals. Nothing is going to change. So I ask you, what are you doing in your local area that will make a difference? That will make a difference. Where you can have some influence. I'm talking state down. Where you can have influence. Where you can exact change. Where you can have a positive benefit for everyone in your state. Are you focusing on that? Are you focusing on that you-know-what show, that circus in Washington, D.C.? Because it's not, D.C. is not going to get repaired. It's beyond repair. And that's why we talk about, a national divorce. Or, again, because national divorce would be included in making changes in your area. Focusing on your state. Working to get your freedoms back on a state level down to the local level. And not fixating on some cult leader. Because Biden's a cult leader, Trump's a cult leader. They're both cult leaders. People that follow them are not paying attention to what is going on around them. They just could not bear that the other guy was in there. They just can't bear the thought that the other party have the power. But there is no intellectual curiosity rolling around in the brains of a lot of these people. And it's a little frightening. It's discouraging. But you know what's encouraging? People like some of the reps that I've had on the show, people in grassroots movements like the Missouri Freedom Initiative, the Missouri Freedom Foundation, networks like Missouri Liberty Radio, KEYK, some of these others, people like Catherine and Kirby doing podcasts, following the money. We have a lot of great people in this state. And if you would choose to take your attention away from the lagoon with all the turds floating in it that is D.C. and swivel to Missouri or whatever state you live in and focus your efforts there, because you don't have to go to Jefferson City with a check to get time with somebody. You don't. You can just go into their office and talk to them. You can make a phone call. You can type out an email. You can handwrite or a letter. You can send a fax. All those things. You cannot just drive up to D.C. and just step into your, representative or senator's office and just strike up conversation. No. It doesn't work that way. People have got to get their focus off this nutty crap that goes around, that's going on with these two. Listen, folks, I get it. They make policies that affect us all. But there's a thing called nullification. And you can use nullification to throw off unconstitutional, immoral laws. Your state says, we're not going to enforce said act, ordinance, law, regulation, whatever, through nullification. You have that ability. Stop looking to one figure in government to cure what ails you, because it will not happen. Let's say Ron Paul was 20 years younger and he was the front runner in the Republican Party. Ron Paul could not cure what ails you. Now, Ron Paul could sit there, because he would, veto every crap bill that came through and force Congress to override the veto, putting all the pressure and the onus on them. But he could not change all this stuff by himself, because he knows his role as president. He understands what he can and cannot do. A lot of these other people have visions of power and more power and more power. And they don't care that there's a document that's supposed to constrain them. They don't care. They'll twist its words to whatever fits their agenda. Now, that can happen at the state level too, but you have way more influence at the state level. I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen and heard about 2,000 phone calls coming in one day to one politician's office. That gets some eyebrows raised. That makes people pay attention. But to sit here and think that one person is going to solve all your problems is absolutely, patently false. Does not happen. Will not happen. Again, if you get a good governor who will actually line item veto a lot of BS out of the budget, that's awesome, because that can have a positive effect on you and everyone else around you. Or they can, ask that the legislature work on certain things to try to be a leader. That's fine too. But just to come in and just think with a couple strokes of an ink pen is going to put everything back and get all your freedoms back, you're wrong. That is not how this works. And so we have to do better. And we have to educate, and we have to focus our attention on where we can have an impact and not on the clown show at the federal level. Because they're going to have you believing that you can really, if you just vote for a certain person as president, man, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. Ugh. And that's just, DC is broken beyond repair. Now, I know that's my opinion, but I truly believe that. We are not fixing DC. So let's focus on Missouri or whatever state you're living in. If you hear this, focus on your state and don't cast your eyes east towards that cesspool that is Washington, D.C. All right, folks, with that being said, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Again, thank you to all of you who watch, listen, however you get this podcast. Thank you. And again, don't forget to check out MOLibertyRadio.us, especially on Sunday nights from 6 to 9 p.m. Central Time. Off the Cuff Radio, Sam and Trish Britton. Check out mofree.org. Sign up for their email list because then they'll tell you about upcoming live streams that they do on Odyssey. And you'll find out a lot about, even during the off session, when they're not in session, we talk about things that we could be working on the next session. Okay? Also, don't forget to check out KEYK, keyradio.live. What's the other one? I'm drawing a blank. But keyradio.live, go check them out. They run my show, and show them some love as well. And then also, last but not least, don't forget to check out Rogue Politics, the podcast. Great, great stuff. So anyway, folks, also, don't forget, next Friday, I don't have a guest planned. So somebody made a suggestion just to talk about whatever comes to mind. So I'm going to depend on you in the live stream to bring up some topics that we can talk about and spend an hour or so delving into different topics. So make sure you're here next Friday night. Give me some ideas of what you want to talk about. I might have an article or two to cover. September 8th, I will attempt to live stream Senator Eigel's campaign kickoff for Missouri governor and try to get a couple minutes with him for an interview. I got to talk to Sherry about that. And then the 15th will be Tom Martz from the Lock and Smith Foundation. And then September 22nd will be Kim Swartz and Michelle Latham to talk about what's going down around the Cape Girardeau area with education and the Global Shapers chapter and all those other things, WEF, the grossness that it is. So that's what's coming up here in the next month. And then I will be looking for some more guests as I've got Grant sent me a representative, and I've called him, and I called on Thursday, and they're only in the office 3 days a week. So waiting to hear from a response from him to get him on, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his name right now because I think it's Skoyak. He's written some good liberty legislation, so trying to get him on. Maybe I can get him on the sometime in October, or if he calls me soon enough, he may be my guest on September 1st. Who knows? Or September the 29th at the end of the month. I don't know. I'm just saying. That's what's planned. So thanks to everybody on Rumble and YouTube who tuned in for the live stream tonight. Appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll talk to you all next week-o.
Want more freedom? It starts with you. Join us next week on the Missouri Liberty Report and find out how you can get involved to take back your state.
Okay. Anyway, thanks, folks. Wilderness Gal, Warrior Class 3, Ganai, Voodoo Queen, John Doe, Agorizer, Missouri Freedom Initiative. Casey Rich was in here. I know Catherine was kind of monitoring the YouTube side as well. I think I got it. Oh, Jeff Barnett was in here for just a minute. And so, yeah, that covers everybody. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all joining along as every Friday night. You guys are always here. You're my loyal viewers on a Friday night, which I know probably in essence, Friday night isn't the best for viewership, but it works the best for me. And it works good for Sam because then I have time to edit the audio, get it over to him, and so he can load it and play it Saturday evening. So, yeah, that's the way that goes. Anyway, folks, take care, everybody. And, yeah, we'll see you all. Let me see if I get this right. Next week, right here on the Missouri Liberty Report. Have a great weekend, everybody.